A single question echoes across 1,000 years of history. How did a people known for fire and fury also become the guardians of one of the most complex honor codes in the medieval world? If the Vikings were truly only raiders, how did they build trade networks from Baghdad to Newfoundland, establish courts, protect the weak, and craft laws that shaped nations? And perhaps the most shocking question: why did their fiercest warriors fear shame more than death? To understand the Viking world, we have to step beyond the smoke of burning monasteries and the clang of iron axes. We must step into their minds, their values, and their unwritten code that governed every action, from battle to marriage to the everyday sharing of bread. Think you know the Vikings? Let's test that, because behind every stereotype lies a truth waiting to be uncovered. The Viking code began with a principle that seems almost paradoxical for a warrior society. Honor outweighed violence. A Viking was not judged by how many enemies he slew, but by how faithfully he upheld his oaths. A man who broke a promise wasn't feared, he was shunned. His name would become a whisper, a warning, a stain on his family line. In a world without written contracts, honor was everything. Lose that, and you lost your place in society. But where did this code come from? The answer lies deep in the icy north, where long winters forced communities to depend on one another for survival. Cooperation wasn't a luxury, it was life or death. Many viewers might be surprised to learn that the Vikings had laws far stricter than many kingdoms in continental Europe. They even held democratic assemblies called the Thing, where farmers, warriors, and chieftains gathered not to fight, but to debate, vote, and settle disputes. Imagine that, some of the most feared fighters of the medieval world, resolving conflicts through public discussion. Yet, honor did not erase violence. It shaped it. Take the famed concept of holmgang duel. If two people had a dispute too serious for negotiation, they could fight it out in a ritualized combat governed by rules. Yes, there were rules. And here's the twist. Many holmgangs ended before anyone died, because the goal wasn't always victory. Sometimes it was simply proving bravery. A Viking who stood his ground, even in defeat, earned more respect than someone who fled from a battle he could have won. Let me ask you this. What do you value more, winning or being remembered as honorable? The Vikings made their choice clear, but their code didn't stop at warriors. Norse society had expectations for farmers, merchants, craftsmen, women, and even children. Did you know Viking women had the right to divorce and keep their dowry if their husbands failed to uphold their responsibilities? Or that women could run farms, lead voyages, and in some sagas, take up the sword? The honor code applied to everyone, not just the men swinging axes on the battlefield. And here is something that might surprise you. Vikings were among the most globalized people of their era. They established trade routes stretching thousands of miles, navigating open seas with no modern instruments. They carried walrus ivory to the markets of Constantinople, brought silk and spices home across frigid waters, and introduced new ideas, goods, and technologies to Scandinavia. How could a society survive such vast interactions without a strong sense of trust? The code ensured that agreements sealed by handshakes, symbols, or spoken oaths were upheld with near religious devotion. But the Viking code had a darker side, one fueled by their deepest fear: shame. The worst punishment wasn't execution. It was outlawry. To be exiled, stripped of protection, and declared a wolf in the woods was a fate worse than death. Anyone could kill you. No one could shelter you. Your name became poison. How powerful was the fear of shame? Powerful enough that warriors charged into battle, not because they believed they would survive, but because dying bravely preserved their legacy. They fought not for gold, but for memory, for the chance that one day a skald, a poet, would sing of their deeds in the longhouses of winter. But don't mistake this reverence for honor as noble purity. The code also justified brutal revenge. Feuds could stretch across generations. A single insult could erupt into bloodshed. Yet even this violence followed rules. Compensation payments called Wurgeld offered a peaceful path when tempers cooled. And at the core of it all, one belief remained. Every action must be balanced. Every wrong must be answered. Too lenient, and you showed weakness. Too harsh, and you invited retribution. Let me ask you directly. If you lived in Viking society, how would you protect your honor? Would you seek revenge? Or forgiveness? Would you stand firm in conflict or negotiate peace at the thing? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Now, let's uncover one of the greatest misconceptions about Viking culture: their spirituality. Norse mythology wasn't just stories. It was a guiding philosophy. Gods like Odin valued wisdom over brute strength. Thor protected the common people. Freya symbolized love, fertility, and battle. The Vikings didn't worship chaos, they worshiped balance. They believed the world itself hung on the edge between order and destruction, and every person had a role in maintaining that cosmic equilibrium. Even the afterlife reflected this balance. Not every warrior went to Valhalla. Many went to Folkvanger, ruled by Freya. Farmers went to peaceful realms. Craftsmen were rewarded for their skill. Honor determined your fate, not your kill count. Hear as a thought. Was the Viking code the reason their culture survived long after the raids ended? When the age of exploring and raiding faded, the code remained, woven into the societies that emerged in Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Its echoes shaped early legal systems, democracy, and even Scandinavian social values today. Before we wrap up, here is a challenge for you. What part of the Viking code do you think the modern world needs most? The emphasis on community? The courage to defend your principles? The accountability of honoring your promises? Tell me your answer. Your insight might inspire others. And if you're still with us, you're clearly as fascinated by history as I am. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to join our growing community of history explorers. Let's keep uncovering stories that textbooks forget, but the world needs to remember. Because the Vikings were never just raiders and pillagers. They were farmers and poets, traders and explorers, judges and lawgivers. A people driven by a code so powerful, it outlived their own age. And now, thanks to you watching this, their story lives on.